Greetings. Welcome to So Much to Talk About. My name is Nabaté Isles, and it's always a pleasure to share facts and viewpoints in the world of sports and have wonderful guests. This week is no different. Before I introduce this wonderful person that I have the honor of speaking with today, I want to let you know to make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is NSI World. NSI World. Subscribe to that channel so you'll be able to see past episodes of So Much to Talk About, and you'll see the episode, especially this one that I have coming up. So go to NSI World to check it out and subscribe it for sure on YouTube. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce this gentleman who I consider a friend. This man has done so much when it comes to broadcasting, and he has great connections with the NBA, and he's had a long life in the NBA, starting way back in Boston. You know, we're going to talk about that and everything. But he's the host of the Bottom Line Sports Show, which has been a staple on SiriusXM NBA radio, Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Saturday. It's been a staple. It's been there for a long time, around 8 to 9 years. And then he also has a podcast that he started with Rasheed, Wallace, and Bonzi Wells, two of the top players of the 2000s, called Let's Get Technical. And that's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, and Stitcher. It is my pleasure to present the one and only Mr. Gerald Brown. How you doing, G? What's going on?
Nabaté, man, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the kind words, my brother.
Oh, anytime, brother, anytime. And now I have to say there's a lot to talk about, so much to talk about. But first I want to talk about you and your background. You worked with Red Auerbach. How did that come about? And how was he as a person and as a mentor?
Well, you know, my interaction with Red was very limited. I think if anything, he probably only, really said, hey, get rid of that kid. But I was a ball boy for the Knicks. Yeah, I was a ball boy for the Knicks, perhaps maybe Patrick Ewing's second year in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, and then I decided to go to school for a year up in Boston, Massachusetts. And the trainer for the Knicks, Mike Saunders at the time, said, hey, you know what, since I was doing a great job. And, again, they knew I was going to school, put a couple extra dollars in my pocket, spoke to the trainers and stuff like that with the Celtics and thus. That's how I got a job as the Celtic ball boy for one season. And then, unfortunately, I got fired for cheering for my former employees, the New York Knicks, while the playoffs was going on.
It was that 1990s first round series, Game 5, right? When Pat did the turnaround.
I got that. Coach. Yeah, and so I actually recently I've been posting up a little of the photos of the videos and stuff. They showed me catching me waving the towel, stuff like that, because I didn't know it was going to be kind of like a big thing. But I'll never forget when I found out that I had gotten fired. I thought it was a joke, and then during the course of it was like game 2. So the start of game 2, I get fired. I'm getting ready to go back to my school. And then all of a sudden, the team, Charles Oakley and Patrick Ewing, those guys like, nah, you stand with us. You stand with us. And then I sat on the bench with the Knicks, went back to school after the game was over. And then I think it was around the time I had a break. I went back and went for game 3, game 4, and came back up to school for game 5 and had my Knicks uniform on and everything. So it was funny, but I didn't realize how big it was going to be because I hadn't told my mother or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, I knew after game 2, she called me that Sunday morning and was like, hey, she read something in the newspaper. And my name was in the newspaper, and there was a little blurb about it. And it was, she was like, oh, my God, how do you get fired and stuff like that for cheering and everything? So it was funny, but she thought it was really, really something serious and stuff like that. But at the time, I was a little disappointed, but I was happy at the end.
That's right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow. And Gerald, now Larry Bird, you were pretty cool with. He would drive you to the arena, right? And everything.
Yes. Yeah. So where I was going to school at, Larry lived, I think his wife actually took some classes in the evening and stuff like that, but she lived not that far from there. So it would be a situation where in Boston, that T system, this was back during the time when the NBA would have those Sunday afternoon games. I think they would start about like 12 noon or so.
That's right, on NBC. Yeah. Oh no, CBS.
CBS.
That's right. Yeah, CBS, and then NBC later, a little later. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so those the train system and stuff like that, the T's wouldn't run as frequent as we have them in New York City. So I think the trainer said, "Hey, why don't you get a ride with Larry? He lives up there." And I was like, "Huh?" He was like, "Yeah, just be ready at such and such time." And I never forget, I tried to get him to get out of his car when he pulled up one time because I told my roommates and my friends at the school. They was like, "Nah, that ain't." He pulls up and he had a Ranger, a blue Ford Ranger and stuff like that, and it was tinted. He didn't get out of the car, so I just said, "Man, I ain't gonna mess around, miss my ride." But on the way down, we were just riding. He was just very talkative. He would talk trash about everybody and anybody.
That's right. No one can mess with him when it comes to, and whatever he says he's gonna do, he did.
Yeah, that's why I was like, "Oh man, you know what?" He would just call him out. Yeah, Johnny Newman's gonna be in for a long game. Oh, he can't guard me. He's a bum. I was like, wow.
Well, here with Gerald Brown on So Much to Talk About. Gerald is the host of the Bottom Line Sports Show on NBA Radio, as well as a new podcast we're going to talk about called Let's Get Technical. So make sure to check that out. That's with Rasheed, Wallace, and Bonzi Wells with Gerald hosting. So Gerald, now, just building relationships in the league throughout the time. I know you're very close, and actually Charles Oakley and Penny Hardaway helped spearhead Bottom Line Sports Show. So how did you get a great relationship with them, and just how great is it too that they really believe in what you do and they see your talent?
Well, it's funny, and I appreciate that. It was a situation where just had some buddies of mine, and we were, I just moved to New Jersey and stuff, and we were just in a, armchair quarterbacks in basement, just talking sports, and we said, "Hey, man, we could do this." And I always took it as a little bit further in terms of, reaching out to guys. And so obviously Charles Oakley, it was always and still has been like a big brother to me, kind of, that big brother that, again, just sometimes don't have no filter. But Oak was a guy that, he was doing the cooking. At that time, he was into the fashion scene. And I asked him to be a part of it. He was like, "Nah, I want to be a part of this." I said, "Would you like to?" He was like, "Nah, I want to do this. I want to do this." And he became a part of it and always have been very receptive coming on the show. We did do different things, highlighting his cooking skills and things of that nature. And then with Penny, it was just really out of just being a guest on his show. And, I was always fascinated because he was a guy that really just kind of dropped off the scene. And you didn't hear anything about him. You didn't see too much about him. He's a very private person. And very introvert, just stays to himself, whatever. But, I was really fascinated. We had him on the show. And at that time, when he came on the show, it was such a great interview because, he was a very little stiff in the beginning because very protective. But he had such a great interview, man. And I took a leap of faith and asked him, "Hey, call these people and say, hey, look, we can't afford to pay him any money, but we'd love to have him have a segment on there." And the crazy thing is that I believe it was the publicist or whoever, she actually emailed me back 2 weeks later and was like, "Hey, he's not available to come on the show." I thought he wasn't going to, I was just like, I'm stupid for doing this. I can't believe that. And she said that he wasn't available to come on the show that specific day because I just said, "Well, you know what, forget that. We just love to have him on the show again."
Yeah.
And she said he wasn't available, but he had agreed that he wanted to do a segment. And lo and behold, that was the start of it. We connected at the Super Bowl in Miami that year because he was living in Miami. And then just been friends ever since. We check in periodically. It's a little bit difficult now because he's coaching.
Yes,
But,
yes.
Yeah, he's like, I call him my little brother. So Oak is the big brother, but I call Penny my little brother,
Yes, yes, indeed. And two players that really, for what they do, did it at such a high level, for sure, absolutely. And two people that are real individuals.
Yeah, good dudes, man. Real good dudes. And, I've always champion the cause of both of them, especially because the fact of the matter is that Oak will give you the shirt off his back. He's a part of so much of New York City that, again, you wouldn't even realize that he was born somewhere else at home. And then Penny just does so much for the city of Memphis and trying to uplift not only his community, but his city, and just wearing the responsibility of just, again, no other NBA player or superstar has come after him to sort of take that mantle. And he hasn't shied away from that responsibility. So I've always applauded both of them. and just really, really outstanding individuals all the way across the board.
That's right, no doubt. Because you see, when Clyde Drexler went to Houston, back to Houston, you could tell he didn't put the effort and the passion into it like Penny has done going back to his hometown and his alma mater, Memphis. You know, it used to be Memphis State, now it's University.
Yeah.
For sure. So, Gerald, now let's get technical. Talk about that show, your podcast, and it's I'm very impressed with the subject matter and just the real conversations, because Bonzi and Rasheed, it seems like you just dish it to them like J. Kidd, like Stockton, like Kevin Porter, like dishing it to them, and they just take it up to the hoop and be able to make it happen. So talk about the chemistry and the beginning of Let's Get Technical.
Well, it's so funny because Bonzi was a guy that I think that, I was down covering an All-Star game in Houston some years ago, and there was a Legends game that was put together by Dale Davis, and Bonzi was one of the athletes that afterwards, really talked to a bunch of the guys and stuff like that. But he was one of the guys that said, hey, I'd love to come on the show, whatever, with Sirius XM. And throughout the course of time, just would reach out periodically, have him on the show. Just obviously if there was something in the news associated with the Portland Trail Blazers or the Sacramento Kings or the Rockets, teams that he formerly played for. But this last time I reached out, he came on the show, and then afterwards I just expressed to him, I thought he was very good, very informative, very knowledgeable in terms of his basketball pedigree. And he expressed to me that he was interested in doing a podcast. And then initially it was just going to be him and Rasheed. And I was like, yeah, I'll be behind the scenes. And then the next thing you know, they was like, nah, come on, you come on in and be a part of this.
Yes.
So it's been great. We're also on YouTube channel as well. And it's very informative. So we've had some amazing guests, but I think the subject matter, like you mentioned about, is always interesting because, again, they touch on so many different things, especially that 2000 Blazers team that lost in that 7-game series.
That's right. They were teammates. They were teammates.
Yeah. And then, just really peeling back the layers of that whole series and that whole season for that franchise, and as well as the Lakers and stuff like that. So it's been a great run thus far, and we have a bunch of fun with it.
Wow, that's what's up. And Coach Dunleavy is, one of the great people, and everything that led that team for sure. So he's still living in New Orleans, actually. And everything.
Okay.
He's down, because he was coaching at Tulane, and then now he stayed down in New Orleans, which, that city's magical for sure. And speaking of New Orleans, Drew Brees, the comments he made, I know we were supposed to talk mostly NBA, but your sports and everything else.
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
What is your take on Drew Brees, and is his apologies believable?
I think more than ever, Nabaté, is that we're going to learn a lot of things when we have these crises and these tragedies take place and stuff. And I think the biggest thing that has happened is the fact of the matter is, if there's anything good that you can associate with the George Floyd situation, if there's anything positive, I think it's all given us an opportunity to really take a step back and do a lot of self-reflection. At the same time, it's really exposing a lot of people's feelings because, again, we don't have the distractions of what sports can do and will do at times where, it takes you away from the issues with society. And yet the fact is that Drew decided to make these comments. And let's be honest, we knew that he walked them back afterwards because at the end of the day, he has a brand. He signed a deal to be an NBC host.
That's right.
Sunday
to be
night
the analyst with Al Michaels. Yep.
Exactly. So he's kind of the sort of
Tarico maybe, because Al is
Tarico and I think
and Brees, right.
Right. Yeah. And he would obviously, I think, replace Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah.
But so he's looking at this, and then of all cities, where he's located in New Orleans, for him to say this, and I think the main thing is that, he came back and apologized. But I said the only way that I think that his apology will have some weight is come the first game of the season, if he decides to take a knee or he joins those fellow Saints and bowing down and taking a knee and really getting out in the community. he has a lot of work to do to convince people that he misspoke on his feelings and walk them back. I don't think that this time it's going to be one of those situations where he offers an apology and woe is me, and it's like everything is okay. He's really, really going to have to do some damage control, if you will, but to get out there and be amongst the people. Because, I mean, again, prior to this, when you ever talked about New Orleans, it was always Drew Brees. You know, even Zion Williamson talked about going to New Orleans and obviously being introduced and meeting Drew Brees. That was a big thing. And for him to say that, and especially of all places in New Orleans, that cuts deep. But again, I think it's exposing a lot of people's true feelings, and we're starting to know who they are. So it's going to be really interesting leading up to the season, how he handles that. But, you know, again, if I'm advising him, he might need to get out there and protest with the people. He's definitely going to definitely need to do some kneeling and really, really show contrition, because right now, no matter how many times he's apologized, it's not good enough.
That's for sure. And here with Gerald Brown, host of the Bottom Line Sports Show on NBA Radio, as well as his podcast, Let's Get Technical, which is available on all platforms, podcast platforms, and YouTube as well. You can see the videos on YouTube, which are well produced for sure.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And now, Gerald, NBA coming back in Orlando, the bubble. They're looking to start the season on July 31st, and it would end on October 12th, which means it's going to be spaced out because you have 22 teams in one place. Now, oh, goodness. Do you think they will be able to get through this without a hitch, or will Murphy's Law strike? Because the way this year has been going and the way we don't know about this disease and the infections and people, more and more people are going to be clamoring around there as well. What's your take on, can the season last?
You know, Nabaté, my heart says I would love to see this work, and we could do all these things, and we really need this sort of, in a sense, entertainment. However, at the same time, there is no vaccine. This is all trial by error. They're trying, and I commend the commissioner and the people in the NBA offices in trying to do these things, to be in a situation to offer some basketball back. And oh, by the way, it doesn't hurt. The fact of the matter is that they have to play, because if they don't, they have to pay the money back to their TV partners and things of that nature. So this is obviously kind of in a situation where they almost have to try it and just try to figure out how to make it work. I just hope that, again, nobody gets infected. I mean, I was just reading something recently that I think it's up to like 50 Alabama football players on the University of Alabama football players.
Five out of the 50 that got infected.
5 out of the 50, okay.
That's still a lot, oh my God.
And it's like now those 50 players have to be quarantined along with those 5 players and stuff. So it's a lot of things to unpack. I'm glad, and I think it's kind of given us some kind of sense of hope that, we're headed back to sort of a sense of normalcy. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. It's kind of the feel that you would get if you saw Orlando Summer League basketball, where there would be no fans in there.
Yep.
It would essentially just be executives there, and you see the guys in their practice jerseys and stuff. I just question the quality and the level of basketball, how it will look. And how effective it will be. But I mean, to answer your question, I hope it works, and see. But again, just facts remain. If there's no vaccine there, they're going to have to be very, very cautious.
Yeah, that's for sure. And competitively, talk about competitively now, like the Brooklyn Nets now, as we all know, like every team has a chance to rest and get healthy. The Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant, Achilles injury, June 12th it happened. So basically it's a year ago today, next week. But then you have Kyrie Irving from his shoulder injury coming back.
I think the best thing for them is kind of resist the urge of saying, hey, look, in so many ways, this might be a great opportunity because this pandemic has affected everybody. So everybody has had the same amount of rest. You might be able to capture a team that really didn't take this pandemic. Nobody knew how to plan and prepare for it. So you might be in a situation where I think obviously in the playoffs, we should see a lot of upsets because again, it's just really, really foreign to everybody. But I think you're going to have to resist the urge to roll out two guys that essentially you're going to build your franchise around next year. And I think, again, if they would have had hamstring injuries, torn hamstrings, or things of that nature, yeah. But you're talking about one guy in Kyrie Irving coming off a shoulder injury. You're talking about, again, Kevin Durant coming off of this Achilles. He's going to need some time and really, really knock off the rust and do all those different things. And I think it would do more harm than good to put him out there, especially with that core group of guys who all of a sudden will have to adjust their roles on the fly. So I think, honestly, it wouldn't make sense. But it'd be great for television. It'd be great for us as the fans. But overall, long term, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, and the odds, I don't know if you heard, the Vegas odds went from 750 to 1 now to 60 to 1 for the Nets' chance for them to win the championship. The odds, because of the possibility of both Kyrie and KD coming back. That's crazy.
Yeah, they might know something. They might know something. I mean, again, they might roll the dice and they say, Kevin Durant, I mean, he might just tell them, look, I want to play. And I mean, Kyrie might say he want to play, and I don't think management will stop them. But the biggest thing is, we've already seen the situation transpire with KD where he kind of forced the hand of the Warriors management and decided to play. And then, obviously tore his Achilles. You just don't want that situation to happen where somebody get hurt. That sort of affects them next season as well.
Right, absolutely. Now we look at this 13 Western Conference teams, which we have the teams that would not be in the playoffs as of now. You have, in no particular order, it'll be Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio Spurs, and the Phoenix Suns. And then in the East, there's only one team that wouldn't make the playoffs. That's the Washington Wizards. Now, which one of those 6 teams could end up making a move to maybe advance to the second round of the NBA playoffs, like before, even after the playing rounds?
It's really interesting because I think the key thing is what team that's going to get hot, what team will really be in a situation where they can sort of capitalize on their sort of chemistry. I like the Portland Trailblazers because they'll be able to get Zach Collins back, Nurkic back. If they're able to get those,
man, that's right.
If they're able to get those two guys back and sort of add them into the mix with Dame and CJ and Carmelo, they might be able to have enough to get it going. I do think the fact is also, I think, the sentimental pull, obviously the league would love to see Zion in those playoffs. But think about it this way, Nabaté. If the San Antonio Spurs do not make the playoffs, that will end the longest run in that run that they've had over 20 some odd years.
That's right.
Of being in the playoffs. And it would end at the hands of sort of a pandemic that kind of stopped their season and then restarted it. It really would be a signal of perhaps maybe the San Antonio Spurs are starting their rebuilding process. So, they have been a staple for 20 some odd years, like I said, of being in the playoffs. I would be very surprised, but I think obviously that would be the sentimental favorite.
Yeah.
But I think looking at it and what they have, the Portland Trailblazers, if they can really get those two guys into the fold and kind of have their mixed mesh with, CJ, Dame, and Carmelo, they would be a very, very dangerous team going into the playoffs.
That's right. We're all cheering for Pop. You know that.
Yeah. And he's been outspoken, too, off that court, too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
And he has a right because he served this country and he knows about, and also, too, the way he's carried his teams of having people from all over the world be able to be unified. And just, it's just great how Pop really, it's sociological with him. That's what it is. It's more than basketball. It's sociological, and that's why they've had the success for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And he stood for a lot, and really, again, he's earned everything that he's gotten and stuff like that, and being the sort of that core and the backbone of that San Antonio Spurs organization.
No doubt, no doubt. So who would win, say October 5th or something? Say if the finals doesn't go to Game 7, October 12th. So October 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, around that time, who would hoist the trophy?
Honestly, I think conventional wisdom before the pandemic, you would probably say it would either be the Clippers Bucks, or the Lakers, those
Yep.
three.
Yep.
But I think, honestly, I don't know, Nabaté. I think nobody can really get a handle on what to expect, because the biggest thing is you're going to be having guys playing on a neutral court.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a sort of a pseudo NCAA tournament style basketball.
Yeah.
And then the biggest challenge is there will be no fans there. So how do you adapt to
you stay
shooting?
And you stay there for 2.5 months. Like, you get restless.
Yes. But I mean, it's like 39. I think it's like the Disney World makes up like 39 miles of property. So it's not like a small venue. But I think the biggest thing is which team will be able to adapt effectively to the environment, the surroundings, and really be able to replicate what they were prior to the pandemic. That will be the biggest question. I mean, again, like I said before, you would always think about the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Bucks. But who knows? Just like I said before, adjusting to be able to shoot in that arena where you have the depth perception that would be blocked out because you have fans there. Now these guys are having no fans in the stands. Just that feel. It's going to take some time. And I think it's a great idea to give teams 8 games. But in the midst of that, you also got to factor in, God forbid if somebody has an injury, a hamstring injury, all these little, knick-knack injuries, how will that affect? So this year, I think, is unlike no other year, obviously, that we've experienced, where I think it's going to be truly, truly wide open,
Right. Gerald Brown, such a pleasure to have you on. So much to talk about. And like I said, it's great to call you a friend. It's great to be in touch with you and great to work with you for all those years, and have a great time and good luck with Bottom Line Sports Show. Of course, keep that's going to continue forever. Of course, and let's get technical. And let me tell you that podcast looks like it's really going to jump off for sure. Definitely. Thank you for being on. So much to talk about.
Oh, thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. And let me just say the same, man. Congratulations on everything from the Grammy to all the stuff that you're doing on this side, man. Keep striving, keep doing your thing. And like I said before, big fan of your work, and anything I could do to support you, please don't hesitate at all.
I appreciate you, Gerald. And thank you all for watching So Much to Talk About. Be safe, be well, be blessed, and be woke. Make sure. So take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.